Hi, welcome to another episode of the Guide to the Night Sky by PAC. In this episode, we take you across the sky and show you the stars and constellations visible for the month of June. In India, this is the month with the monsoon approaching, so we'll have on and off views because of the clouds, and we'll see what's visible for this month in the night sky. If you're on Spotify, please make sure you follow our channel for future updates, and if you're on YouTube, a subscribe would be great. Also, like the video for the algorithm to help others discover this video as well. The stars discussed here are best seen before the 15th of June around 8 p.m. each night. So, let's begin. This month again, if you look at the zenith, you will notice that the constellation of Virgo is still there. The Bowl of Virgo is at zenith this month, and we'll come back to the Bowl of Virgo again in a while. So you see the constellation of Virgo at zenith, and you've also got the bright star Arcturus shining in the constellation of Bootes. Hydra is below Virgo, and so are the other constellations. Not much has changed since the last month. We've got Leo towards the west, and close to the northern horizon, we've got the Big Dipper, the Saptarishi Mandala, and on the eastern side, we see a giant scorpion slowly making its way from the horizon. In the south, we've still got the large Centaur, the constellation of Centaurus, visible near the horizon. The constellation of Crux is also visible there, and you can use this constellation to identify the southern direction. So you see, all these constellations, the bright stars, have been already discussed in the previous month, and because the constellation of Virgo is such a large constellation, not much has changed. Big Dipper is a little slant from what it was the last month, but this month we want to talk to you about something interesting. If you were to live in the continent of Australia, you wouldn't be able to see the Big Dipper in the northern skies. Similarly, if you go in India itself, if you move towards a location like Delhi, you will not be able to see the constellation of Crux. Centaurus would appear half at the horizon, and as you move further north on the globe, you will notice that the constellation of Centaurus will also not be visible. This is because the Earth is tilted by an angle of 23.5 degrees from the ecliptic. This means if you imagine a floor on which the Earth moves around the Sun, then the Earth is also spinning on its own axis. And this axis is bent by 23.5 degrees with respect to this plane, this floor. So, this is what causes equinox and solstice. Astronomically, to observe this thing, a best exercise would be to wake up each morning and observe the sunrise. Around December 21st, you will notice that the sun would appear not at east but at southeast, and on June 21st, you'll notice that the sunrise would happen at northeast. So, as we move from June 21st to December 21st, the sun would appear to rise each day from the east but would also appear to move from the north to the south. And from December 21st to June 21st, the sun would appear to move towards the north. This movement, or Ayana as they call it here, is what leads to the terms Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, which is the movement of the sun towards the north and the south. All of this happens because the Earth's axis is tilted by this 23.5 degrees, and because of this, the sunrise appears at various locations. If you were at the North Pole, then you would notice that the sun would not set on June 21st because the Earth's North Pole is towards the sun during this time. This means for the entire duration of the day, the sun would move parallel to the horizon. And at the South Pole on June 21st, you would not notice any sunrise or sunset as the entire 24 hours will be night. The same would be the case at the South Pole on December 21st, when the sun would appear to move parallel to the horizon, and there would be no sunrise or sunset, and all of the 24 hours will have daylight. You can see that as you move towards the pole, the duration of the day increases on the globe at various times of the year. For example, at poles during any solstice, the length of a day or a night would be 24 hours or 0 hours, depending on which pole you are at. For example, at London, on the northern hemisphere, sunrise occurs on June 21st around 4:30 a.m. and the sun sets at around 10 p.m. each night. This means from 4 in the morning till 10 at night, you would have daylight and a very few hours reserved for the night. From June, as we move towards September, you'll notice that the duration of this daylight reduces and nighttime increases towards December at London. You can notice this happens at various places on Earth depending upon the latitude you live at. The more beautiful thing is, if you were at Sweden, if you look towards the southern direction, you would not notice Centaurus or Crux. In fact, Sagittarius and Ophiuchus would appear very close to the horizon at the south. Similarly, near the South Pole, in the northern direction, you would notice that the stars of Big Dipper are not even visible. All this happens because the Earth's axis is tilted, and at various times of the year, the poles are facing towards or away from the sun, causing the shift in the length of day and night. This is also what causes seasons, because from March to September, the northern hemisphere is facing the sun for longer than the southern hemisphere, and the same is true for the southern hemisphere from September to March. So, in the month of December, the southern pole is facing towards the sun at all times in a day, and as we approach March, the sun rays shine directly above your head at the equator. So, at the equator, on the days of equinox, you would have the sun shining from zenith, leading to zero shadow moments. As we move towards June, the northern pole is exposed towards the sunlight for 24 hours, and that is why we have an all day sun. As we approach towards December from June, in the month of September, we have another equinox when the sun will shine above the equator, causing a zero shadow moment again, and you will see that between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, the sun would appear to move towards the north and south between these times. So, if you were at the equator, you would see the sun at zenith on March 22nd and September 22nd, depending on the equinox date. And as you move towards the south, at the Tropic of Capricorn, you would see the sun shine from zenith on December 21st. And then the sun would appear to move towards the north as we approach the month of June. Coming back to the night sky this month, I've told you not much has changed since the last month, but we have forgotten a small part of Centaurus in the previous video. You see, the night sky contains a lot of beautiful stars, but it also contains a lot of nebulae and star clusters that are visible to the naked eye. If you turn towards the south right now, you'll notice that at south you have the constellation of Centaurus and Crux. We've explained to you in the previous video about the two bright stars in this region, the stars Alpha Centauri, which is the closest bright star that you can see with the naked eye, and we've got a small star right there next to it, Proxima Centauri, which is the closest star after the sun, but we cannot see it with our naked eyes, and the star Beta Centauri shining right next to it. We've got the constellation of Crux over there, and just between the pair of the Centauri stars and Crux, on the back of the Centaur, we have a fuzzy patch in the sky. This looks like a star, but if you look at it with a binocular, it appears more fuzzy, and when you look at it with a telescope, you'll realize this is a star cluster. The Omega Centauri star cluster is a group of stars, several hundred thousands of stars, located 17,000 light years away, and the light you see from this cluster has traveled for 17,000 years. At the beginning of this episode, I told you we will come back to the Bowl of Virgo in this episode. The Bowl of Virgo is an important part of the sky because it contains a lot of galaxies, which cannot be seen by the naked eye. But if you look at it through a powerful telescope, you'll see thousands of galaxies located in this one spot. What is a galaxy? So we have with us here today Dr. A.P. Radhakrishna, professor in physics from Puttur, who will tell us what are galaxies. Over to you, sir.
Friends, first of all, I would like to thank my friend Professor A.P. Bhatt, young friend Mr. Atul Bhatt, and members of the Purna Prajna Amateur Astronomy Club PAC for providing me an opportunity to speak about galaxies, which are the most fascinating entity of the universe. I imagine the galaxies are like a swarm of bees hanging at different branches of a banyan tree. If universe is like a tree, galaxies are the swarm of bees and stars are humming bees in each swarm. But there is a caution. Don't take this picture too much. In a galaxy, unlike bees, the stars are separated by the vast distance and mostly the space is empty. This is due to the sheer size of the galaxy as well as the universe. I always feel no celestial object is so grand as galaxy. In a large telescope, you can see the breathtaking picture of galaxies. On the internet, we have fascinating pictures of galaxies. Some are spiral and some are cylindrical, some are elliptical, some are irregular, and the size, shape, luminosity, the number of stars in each galaxy are simply astounding. Galaxies are the cluster of stars and stardust. Each galaxy consists of millions and millions of stars. It is estimated that the typical galaxy contains 100 to 1000 billions of stars, that is, trillion stars. How many are such galaxies present in the universe? It is estimated that over 100 billion galaxies exist. You imagine each one contains more than 100 billion stars or 10 billion trillion stars. That means in the universe there are innumerable number of stars shining bright and emit enormous amount of energy in the form of the light and other invisible radiation, gamma radiation to the radio waves into the vast space. At night, as we gaze at the cloudless sky, we are able to see the large number of stars of different colors and brightness making the various patterns. But remember, all these stars belong to our home, that is a Milky Way galaxy. To observe other galaxies, we require a powerful telescope. The ground-based powerful telescope, like the one situated on Mount Palomar, USA, or the Hubble telescope, which orbiting around the Earth in outer space, revealed that there are more than 1000 galaxies per square minute of arc. Using the deep images of the cosmos, astrophysicists could estimate that there are about 200 billion observable galaxies, and in each galaxy contain a few hundred billions of stars. Out of so many galaxies, one such galaxy is our home, the Milky Way galaxy, where we are residing. Our planetary home, that is a solar system. Sun is a pretty standard star. Friends, all those stars that we see with the naked eye belong to the Milky Way. A part of the Milky Way is visible as a white patch or the white cloud spread across the night sky from almost north to south. It is a broad and luminous band divides the whole sky into two regions, and something white stream flows across the sky. The ancient Egyptians saw and explained this Milky Way like grains of wheat spilled across the sky by the god. For Greeks and Romans, it was the milk that the infant Hercules caused to gush from goddess Juno's breast. In fact, the word galaxy derived from the Greek word galactos means the milk. The Incas imagined this Milky Way is like a gold dust. We, the Indians, saw the Milky Way as the flow of the heavenly river Ganga. Ancient philosophers like Democritus, Lucretus, and others in the 2nd century BC observed the pale celestial streak and explained that this streak is due to the cumulative effect of innumerable stars situated at a considerable vast distance. But you see, at that time telescopes were not yet available. one had to wait almost 1,000 years. But what those philosophers said is almost the perfect picture. In around 1610, Italian physicist Galileo Galilei developed the modern refracting telescope. He observed the dark spots on the bright sun, satellites of Jupiter, canals on the Mars, more than 20 stars in the previous cluster. He observed the Milky Way by using that modest telescope, and for his great astonishment, he reports, I have observed the nature and material of the Milky Way with the aid of the telescope. This has been scrutinized so direct and with such ocular certainty that all the disputes which have vexed philosophers through so many ages have been resolved. And if Galileo writes, we are at last free from worldly debates about the galaxy. The galaxy is, in fact, nothing but the conglomeration of innumerable stars grouped together into clusters. Jean Henry Lambert, Thomas Wright, and specifically Immanuel Kant speculated that the Milky Way is a gigantic disk of stars with the sun at its center in the 17th century. William Herschel, classical musician and British astronomer who set up the big telescopes and discovered the planet Uranus and counted the number of stars visible in different directions. Herschel could figure out the rough picture of the Milky Way, which was something like a flat octopus with many arms. Herschel speculated that sun is at the center of the system. Until 20th century, scientists were not having the clear picture of the number of galaxies in the universe. The real leap of our understanding about not only the Milky Way but other galaxies and the universe is due to Edwin Hubble. Edwin Hubble was American astrophysicist with painstaking observations for not 1 or 2 years, but for decades. Edwin Hubble observed the sky and discovered that there exist thousands of galaxies. Observing these galaxies and based on the observation, Hubble classified these galaxies into the following 4 categories: the elliptical galaxy, the spiral galaxy, the barred galaxy, and the irregular galaxy. 20th century is considered as the golden era of the science and astronomy. In a short span, the ground-based and space-based powerful telescopes are established to receive and analyze the electromagnetic radiation coming from the different galaxies and the depth of the universe. What is the type of galaxy our Milky Way belong? It is a barred spiral galaxy with a central bulge and the disk. The size of the disk of the Milky Way is the 1 lakh light year in diameter. That means the light beam travel with a speed of 3 lakhs kilometer per second takes 1 lakh year to cover the distance that indicate the size of our Milky Way. The thickness of the disk, that there is a central bulge, is about 3000 light years. The sun or we are away from the center, sitting at one spiral arm about 26,000 light years, approximately half of the galactic radius from the center. The sun and other planets, including the Earth, orbit around the center of the Milky Way at a speed of 225 km per second and takes 220 million years to complete one rotation. It is not easy to determine the structure of our galaxy as we see it from inside the disk, filled with dust and cloud of various gases, and they absorb the visible light. But infrared radiation simply penetrates through this material. Using the IR light and radio waves, we could get the detailed account of structure of galaxy. At the center of the bulge, the nucleus contains star clusters dense clouds of the dust and gas, and the elusive black hole that associated with the strong radio emissions. This black hole, which is relatively of modest size for galaxy, is about 4 million times the mass of the sun. We have already discussed that there are billions of galaxies. How do we name these galaxies? That itself the most challenging task. Some hundreds of galaxies that are luminous and relatively near to us. The near means something 100 million light years away, observed by astronomer Messier in the 18th century and catalogued. Such galaxies are known as the Messier galaxy. For example, we have galaxies like M31, M34, M81 and so on. Based on the shape, content, luminosity, direction, these galaxies are grouped. Near to our galaxy at a distance of 2.5 million light years away, we come across a barred galaxy known as the Andromeda galaxy. It is the nearest galaxy for us. It is a local group galaxy. Our Milky Way is in a local group that includes some 50 other galaxies. Milky Way galaxy, Andromeda, small Magellanic and large Magellanic Cloud, and some smaller galaxies make a local group cluster. Friends, this is something like a village cluster due to combination of homes. There are many such local or small clusters in the universe. The total size of the typical local group is about 10 million light years across, and its mass estimated to be about 2 to 10 billion solar mass. The bowl of Virgo is a supercluster of galaxy. It is like a big city. Virgo cluster contains not 50 or 100 galaxies. It contains more than 2000 galaxies. It is at a distance of 70 million light years away. That means the light which is emitted from those galaxies require the time to reach to the Earth is 70 million years. Astronomers have observed that our Milky Way is moving towards the Virgo cluster with a speed of 600 km per second. At this speed, we will be reaching to Virgo cluster after a billion years. Why are we moving towards the Virgo cluster? This is quite interesting question. Nobel laureate George Smoot explains that Virgo supercluster drags the local group, including the Milky Way, towards it, which is nothing but a gravitational drag. In fact, it was Edwin Hubble who discovered that galaxies are wandering in the vast universe. He studied the spectral lines of galaxies. To his surprise, the spectral lines appears to be shifted from their original position to the longer wavelength. This is known as the redshift. The redshift of spectral lines indicate that all galaxies are receding away from each other. The velocity increases with the distance. Farther the galaxy, more incredible velocity with which the galaxy is moving away. This fascinating discovery has given the proof for the origin of the universe, which might have happened almost 13.6 billion years ago in a tremendous explosion known as Big Bang. Understanding of galaxy is the understanding of the universe. The present knowledge says that at the center of every galaxy there exists a black hole. It is not an ordinary black hole. Its mass is a billion times that of solar mass. The supermassive black hole lurking at the center of the galaxy probably govern the whole dynamics of the galaxy. Dark matter and dark energy are the new realms that may throw new insight into the galaxy dynamics and the universe itself. The Milky Way contains billions of suns like ours. There are billions of such galaxies. There may be a star like our sun and a planet like our Earth, with full of life. Hence, Carl Sagan, great astrophysicist and science writer, says a galaxy is composed of gas and dust and stars, billions upon billions of stars. Every star may be a sun to someone. Every star may be to sun to someone. Friends, hope someday that someone will find us or we will be able to find that someone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, we have learned about the stars and constellations for this month, and we've also learned a lot about galaxies in this episode. In the next episode, we'll discuss the stars of Libra and Scorpio as they make their way up the sky. If you're on Spotify, then be sure to follow our podcast. And if you're on YouTube, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And please share it with your friends and share the joy that's astronomy. This is Atul signing off for this month. See you again in next month. Clear skies.